Alright, what's up? This is Terminator Juice. Some of you may know me as Bo if you're from my home theater content. And back in the day, I used to do Juice Opinions videos, I think pretty much weekly. And it started off as like a 10 to 15 minute video. Just try to give my take on a specific topic outside of the Juices Loose podcast. And then I got lazy of, having to record and edit videos, and I just did a live one day. And we're talking like probably 8 years ago. I did a live one, and like said what I was going to say, and then there was like 20, 30 people watching, and I was like, well, that was the topic I had. So anybody got any questions? And then, hence the Juice Opinions live streams were born. They'd range from 45 minutes to 2.5 hours, depending on how many people were there and people asking questions. And, this was back in the good old days. Wii U era. Had a lot of engagement back then. And, yeah, kind of just after a while, I was like, well, I'll do the Juice Opinions on Friday, and then I'd do the podcast on, well, it wasn't always Fridays, but, do the Juices Loose podcast like a couple days later. I'm just re-saying everything. Sometimes we would have a topic on the podcast, and I would either not get my point across properly. Everybody wants to get in their opinions, and I was like, well, I really just want to talk about this without interruption, without debate. And so I used to do those for a long time, and I did maybe one or two last year. I think the last few I was doing with gameplay. I was probably playing like Breath of the Wild on the PC. I was emulating it. So anyway, try something. I believe it's Thursday. I don't even know what day it is. I think it's Thursday. First, I want to talk about the Xenoblade Chronicles X trailer that just released earlier. And then the main thing, I want to talk about, basically give my thoughts on the Switch 2 and how I feel about it being as similar to the Switch 1 visually, the system itself, which I brought up what I thought was kind of an interesting or funny comment because Robert shared, I'll get into all this, but Robert shared some people were bashing the Switch 2 for just basically being just like the Switch 1, and I said, well, it's probably Xbox and Sony guys are going to be looking for any reason to bash it, but I said, you're also going to get people, Nintendo fans, who are critical of it because we're used to getting, or Nintendo fans are used to getting, unique, weird ideas from Nintendo. And I've mentioned Jason from Clocked It because I know he's one of those. Not that he won't be happy with the Switch 2 if it is what it looks like it's going to be. And so we discussed that. It turned into a huge conversation about innovations. And then it was like, I don't even know if we're sure what qualifies as an innovation or not. But yeah, we'll get into all that. First, let me bring up this Xenoblade Chronicles X trailer. I just kind of want to talk about my thoughts on it and some of the reactions to it. So let me switch over to the second screen. Nintendo's going to flag this, but I'm not monetized on this video, so I ain't worried about it. I'll put the music down. So I played Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U. I have about, I think, 220 hours in it, and I love the game. Most of that was after the, quote unquote, beating the game. I think I beat the game around 80 hours. And this is the second look we've seen of this after the initial reveal. So this is my first time watching it on something other than my phone, so I'll get a better gauge of the visuals. There's definitely some new content, which is cool. I'd say on my 24-inch monitor, I mean, it's not the biggest visual improvement, but let's see if they show any areas where there was a bunch of popping before. I've already watched this, but I'm just rewatching it. So there's the map. Yeah, I'm not seeing any areas where it's like where there would be obvious pop-in on Wii U on the Wii U version.
Another step. Slowly but surely.
Which happened like really close to the player. But it doesn't look like, you know, a massive visual improvement. They changed the character faces more, a little more anime-ish. But we got some new content, which is exciting. And even without like major visual improvements, I'm still probably picking up the game. I dread starting over, but the story was actually really good. Now I want to pause here because everybody, I've seen multiple people now acting all excited about this new HUD, and I gotta say, I'm not feeling it, for one. And that was an unintentional Xenoblade pun. Yeah, it's cool. You can see the people's names like super clear now, but you had their faces. I never had a problem with that. Now it's, to me, it's taking up too much of the screen here on the left. The bottom, the icons are about, I don't know, 50 to 70% bigger. And it's like, okay, I don't have a huge problem with it, but it's taking up more screen. Then this shit on the right, I'm sure you can turn that stuff off. I'm looking at this and I'm like thinking of Ready Player One, when the scene where he's talking about putting all the ads on the screen. This is way too cluttered. I hope you can change some of the scaling, because I mean, yeah, I'm sitting 10 feet away, but I got a 77-inch TV. I don't need giant letters. I don't need to see the names. The faces are good enough. I mean, yeah, the health bar is a little bit bigger. That's going to help. I don't have much problem with that. I do like the enemy health bar. It's a little better, of a little less intrusive. But yeah, it's just, there's too much on taking up the screen here for me. But that's my take on that. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Especially with the skulls, that's just a lot. So hopefully you can adjust. But here we go. Here's the first new edition. I don't know if this is a reference to anything. It doesn't look familiar to me. That does look like Xenoblade Chronicles 3-ish kind of design on that flying skull. Let's go back.
I happen to be a pretty competent pilot. That might be a skill.
Looks badass though. Looks more like a regular, like space shuttle. I don't know if it's me about. Yeah, I turned the game way down. As long as you can hear me, Retro, let me know. Because everything looks fine on OBS, but I have the game volume way down. So let me pause it. Can you verify, is it me that's super quiet? This won't be the first time this has happened. Usually it's through Discord though. Let me check the settings real quick. No, everything's the same. Let me rewind since I was distracted. No, I mean you. The volume was low before. The volume's low for me, huh? God damn. I don't know what to do about that. Let me listen back here. Hold on. I'm going to listen back to the beginning just to see how low it is. Weekly go. I did a live one. And I mean, it sounds pretty normal volume. Like I said what I was going to say, and then there was like 20, 30 people watching, and I was like, well, I mean, the volume's pretty good on my end if I listen back. So I don't know if something on your end. It could be lower than normal, but again, I just listened back. I can hear myself fine. Let me see with the gameplay. I'm just rewatching it. I did have this once before though, where I had to put the mic close to my mouth, but that was, I believe that was on Discord. Where it's like where there would be obvious pop-in on the Wii U version. Yeah, if it's lower, you just might have to turn up whatever you're watching on. You might have to turn it up a little louder. I mean, I can go louder. If anybody else is watching, can comment. I have my OBS scaler. You have it maxed out, huh? I mean, the mic's like literally 4 inches from my mouth, so now I'm right up against it. But I'm going to continue. So it's been a while since I got through the story. I mean, in 2015, so it's been 10 years since I got through this story, so I don't remember much about this, so something might be new. Like, I don't remember those guys being in New LA. Don't really remember those things. That looks like a new character. Okay, thanks, Jay. Definitely remember this. Spoilers if you haven't beat Xenoblade Chronicles X or played it. Some epic cutscenes. I wonder if they'll remove like the restrictions on starting chapters that people complain about. So there's some new stuff after this that had me pretty excited.
People still need me. Humanity still needs me.
But still,
You're still alive?
So I don't know. I don't remember that scene. This is definitely new. It looks great.
guiding us where we're needed.
I don't know how big of an area that's going to be. Is that going to be like a separate little prologue thing? But anyway, probably picking it up. I kind of was already thinking about it. Now I'm like, for sure. And I never played any Xenoblade game, so X on Switch will be my first. Really, that was my first Xenoblade, and it's still my favorite. I would say my second favorite. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has a really good story, but I started to get a little bit. I was starting to check out with the combat. It's just there's a lot. That game's. I don't remember how many hours. I put a lot of time into that game. I don't remember exactly how much. Over 100 hours. And I felt like I was trying to do all the quests and, you know, the affinity stuff, and you get there's side characters that join your party, and you can level them up, and then all your characters, you can switch classes and level that up. I was trying to do all that, and I was just doing a ton of battles, and the whole overdrive, whatever system combo, I forget what it's called. I was just like going through the same routine every battle. I'm doing the exact same routine, and I just kind of started to lose its luster, and I wonder if that would be a game be better suited to not just go all in, try to do every little thing, like Robert said earlier, like get the most out of every game. That would probably be better, a little more focused on the main story stuff, and then some extra content. Xenoblade Chronicles original, it's good. The Switch version is definitely the one I would recommend. I enjoyed that. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 would be fourth place for me. Sorry, Terrell, if you're watching this. It's not turn-based at all. It's a unique battle system that I really like. So your character auto-attacks. You walk around. Depending on where you are, you got in front of the character, to the side, and to the back. Some attacks are better from the back, others from the side, others from the front, and then you have ranged and your sword attacks depending on how close or far away you are, and then you have like your special art abilities, and it's really cool. I don't like turn-based games much at all. I don't really like RPGs much, and I love Xenoblade Chronicles X. If you like Breath of the Wild, like open exploration, huge world to explore, I think you'll like it. So, but I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be tough to like probably start over with that because, like I said, I got 220 hours. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to starting over from scratch. But I'm gonna do it, and that would be the reason I wouldn't pick up Elden Ring if it comes to the Switch 2. Is like I'm not starting over. Like I got like. I forget where I'm at now. Over 200 hours in Elden Ring. I'm not starting over with like at this point. And you know the handheld part of it would be cool, but put on my TV, it's going to be a huge downgrade over what I have right now. So, I think it'll be cool to have all the Xenoblade games on one system, all the physical version. So even if I wasn't planning on replaying the whole game, I still think I'd pick it up just to finish off the Xenoblade Chronicles collection on Switch. What's up? Didn't play this on Wii U, so I'll try it this time. Did you play any other Xenoblades? Because it feels like if somebody played Xenoblade Chronicles first, X isn't their favorite, but the people that played X first, it's their favorite. Now, I'm not saying that's like the vast majority, but I know multiple people that started with X and a couple people that started with the original game, and it's kind of, I think T's the only one that played the original game that likes X the most. But I mean, if any of that trailer looks interesting and what I just said sounds interesting, I mean, give it a try at that point. What's up, Donnie? I don't know. Does Terrell stream on Thursdays? I don't know. I just kind of spontaneous, like I said in the beginning, having a discussion all day in the Juices Loose chat about the Switch 2 and Nintendo and innovating. So I got enough people in here. I might as well start. If you don't want to know a single thing about stuff shown at CES or any kind of info that's pretty much confirmed what the Switch 2 is, then you might want to jump out now. I'm going to talk about some of that. I'm not going to like show everything, but I got to talk about a few things. Mainly what the Switch 2 is, and I'm going to say it's confirmed. Nintendo hasn't officially announced it, but the company's not going to pay for a booth at CES to show off Switch 2 accessories to try to be fake leakers. Like, I'm sorry. They're not going to do that. A CES booth, I'm guessing, is not going to be cheap. My theory is Nintendo initially was going to release the Switch 2 last year or already be announced by this point, and they changed their plans and left these third-party accessory manufacturers out to dry, because why else would they be revealing their accessories before the system's been officially announced? So for those that don't know and that haven't left, this is what the Switch 2 is going to look like, except it's going to have an extra button right here. So that's just a fact at this point. I mean, at CES you saw videos of grip accessories showing the actual Switch 2 Joy-Con release mechanism for the magnets. It's like I said, they're not going to pay all that money to do fake leaks of the Switch 2. So this is what the Switch 2 looks like. It's bigger, and it has an extra button on this side. And then on the back, this button is facing out this way. So it's facing this way, and you squeeze it, and it releases the magnets in the Joy-Cons release. That's the Switch 2. There's no ergonomics. It looks just like this, the Joy-Cons, but taller. There's no ergonomics to them. They have pretty much the same trigger profile, the same shoulder, the same analog stick, thin, low-profile analog sticks. Same. I don't remember. Honestly, I didn't pay attention if it has a D-pad or not. So that's what the Switch 2 is. Just accept it at this point. That's what it is. There's not going to be some... Nintendo's not going to show something, some 3-screened handheld that or a home console. I mean, we know what the Switch 2 is. Just accept it. That's what it is. So what are my thoughts on it? I'm disappointed. But I'm disappointed, I think, for different reasons than why Cloctic's disappointed or why some other people might be disappointed. And I'll go over the things I really wanted the most from the actual physical stuff. So it has same buttons, no D-pad. Another reason to be disappointed. I'm disappointed that they're still focusing on the sideways Joy-Cons. I'm really disappointed that they didn't add any ergonomics, any kind of grip here. I mean, come on. Just add something there. It would just benefit the system so much. No analog triggers. And yeah, that's it. The lack of ergonomics, the sideways Joy-Cons still just, I don't care about that. It's not a good way to play. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's some people that have played that way a decent amount of time, but at the end of the day, it doesn't. It only affects me because I know that's why there's no D-pad. I know that's why they didn't put any ergonomics because they didn't want to make it weird for the sideways Joy Cons. That's the stuff that's pissed me off. I'm so disappointed in that. Not disappointed enough to not buy the system, but I mean, with all the third party grip options, and Nintendo can't frickin' put some kind of just something to grab onto when you're playing, just something instead of using my pinkies to like rest the system or using a pillow, like just give me some damn grips. Christ. The D-pad. I mean, now that I have one on here, it's so much better than the buttons. It's so much better. So, and the low Joy-Con sticks, like they look almost thinner than this. And I'm like, why? If they're taller, so you don't have. They're not gonna, and they connect differently. You don't. They're not interchangeable. You're not gonna be able to snap these Switch 1 ones onto the Switch 2. So why stick to the same layout? Why stick to the same design? It's frustrating. That's what's frustrating. Dude, I've seen it. Like I said, companies aren't going to go to CES and pay hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars for a booth at CES to promote their accessories and show some fake version of the Switch 2. Like, it's just not going to happen. Just like I knew Mario Kart 9 wasn't going to happen on the Switch. It's just not going to happen. It makes no sense. So that's what the Switch 2 is. That's the official Joy-Con. It wasn't. They weren't showing their version. They were showing their grip that uses the official Joy-Con. It is what it is. The release month was revealed too. I'm not going to spoil that for anybody that doesn't want to know. Now that could be speculation. That could be inaccurate, out-of-date information. Yeah, it's going to be. It might be the color of the Joy-Cons might be on the like the part that attaches the. They'll still have colored Joy-Cons, but so that's just a huge disappointment for me. Now they might have great haptic feedback. Don't expect it. They're not going to have analog triggers. They're not going to have adaptive triggers, which I didn't expect because that would use too much of the battery. Yeah, like I mean, at what my theory is, Nintendo had to have delayed it from what they promised because I don't understand why they're showing this stuff right now. But they might already secured the booth at CS. Said, "Fuck, we're gonna show it." Like, sorry, Nintendo. We need to get our products out there, and we want people to know about it. And if Nintendo changed their timing, does that mean all these other companies have to? I don't know. Be curious. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know the legality of it, but maybe it expired. Maybe the NDA only covered 2024. Maybe Nintendo didn't. It was an oversight. I don't know. But a company's not going to go promote products, pay money to fly all this stuff to CES to show off their products, for if it doesn't. If they don't know what the Switch 2 is, and the products they show, they use a 3D print, obviously, so they could show how the products work, like how this grip works. The grip's not going to work if the Nintendo launches a Joy-Con with grips when their grip is for a flat Joy-Con. No, they needed to get their products out. Like I said, why would they spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, to go to CES to make fake reports? Like, it's not. Yeah, I mean, who knows the reasons? But if this is some elaborate thing to just be to like fake people on what the Switch 2 is, like that would be the craziest. Some billionaire somewhere just said, you know what? Let's just make these products. Let's just pretend like we know what the Switch 2 is and make these products and go to this like major consumer electronics show and show them off. Like that would be absurd. That would be absurd. So And based on the release month that came out, they have to start advertising the stuff pretty soon. That's all I'll say. Um, but either way, I'm going off. That's what the Switch 2 is, and I'm highly disappointed. I'm gonna be. Hopefully, the Pro controller is as good, probably hopefully better than the original Switch Pro controller. That's how I do all my gaming on TV. But it would have been nice to not have to buy some third party stuff. Genki specifically said they weren't afraid to show their products because they have no partnership with Nintendo. Exactly. I don't know where they got the Switch 2 information, but multiple companies. Who was the other? The first one was one of the bigger companies. What was their name? One of the bigger companies were the first one. But like I said, you don't go to CES and show off products for some non-existent thing. So again, I'm going with that. That's where my disappointment comes from. We don't know about the OS. We don't know about like I said, we don't know about the HD Rumble. We don't know about the Pro controller. We don't know about the software, the functionality, nothing like that. I'm just talking about the actual physical hardware is indistinguishable, other than a button, from the original Switch. Other than the coloring and stuff, obviously that can be identical. Satisfied? Yep, they were one, and there was another one though that I wouldn't say. Once you showed Genki that, and I'm thinking of G, but I don't think it is. And then the question is, do you have a problem if that's what it is? Like, and then here I'll get into the discussion we had in the Juices Loose chat, because my main point, which I don't know how well, I'm at work, I'm replying, trying not to be on my phone all day at work. My main thought process is, what are they going to innovate past this? They're not going to get away from this. So where's the innovations? Like, I mean, yeah, they could have done ergonomic controllers. They could have made a really comfortable Joy-Con controller. I don't call that an innovation. I would just call it an improvement over the predecessor, and making right what a wrong they did on the first design. God, I lost my train of thought because I just read Jay Biggs. Yeah, they just have a 3D printed one, and like I said, if a company spent all this money to show off products and they have a 3D printed thing that's not the real thing, that would be crazy. I mean, I would laugh at that. But yeah, what I was saying, all right. So once Nintendo revealed the Switch, we saw how it worked. We had questions in the beginning. We saw how the docks, it worked. It was no magic. It's just a USB hub, USB-C hub to HDMI. There's no magic behind it. There's no extra power. Once we it's seamless. You connect it, a couple seconds later, it's on your TV. You lift it off. Within a second, you're playing in portable mode. Obviously, if you got to change controllers, sometimes you have to redo the controllers if you go from the Pro controller to going handheld with the Joy-Cons. Once we saw that, and then we saw how well the Switch is sold, there's no going back. Like, I know we didn't specifically talk about this in the chat earlier, but I just want to get this out. Nintendo's been up and down with their hardware sales for home consoles. NES, 80 million. Super NES, 60 million, I think. Was it 60? N64, I forget if it was 40, 50, 60. GameCube, 20 million. Wii, 100 million. Wii U, 13 million. Switch, 150 million. So they've been really up and down. Their handhelds have been 80, 100, 150, 100 a couple times. Pretty consistent. So for me, a long time ago, I accepted there's no going back. I said it so many damn times on the podcast. People talked about a Switch Pro. Someone's like, they could just make a dock, like, or a home console version. I said they could. That's what I would probably do, since this already covers the handheld. But there's no going back. There's no releasing a home console. and a handheld with separate libraries. They could do separate devices with the same libraries, but then you got the same issue as this, where you have to cater to handheld and it would limit the home console version. It can't be too big of a gap in power. So with that in mind, with the hybrid in mind, where's the innovation going to come from, other than software and game, OS and games? Well, the point I tried to make, but got really sidetracked. There's the only innovation left, really, is the controllers. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, going back to the Super NES. What was the Super NES's innovation? Shoulder buttons and the diagonal button layout. Other than that, they made nice improvements to the hardware. They added a really good sound chip from Sony. There was some ports on the bottom that could be used for things, but at the end of the day, it was a more powerful Nintendo system, and they made some cool additions on the controller. Like, let's see. I'm gonna catch back up on that. I'll try to stay on the chat. Not 3D prints. They are showing 3D prints, but they're not real ones. Yeah, we know that. Imagine all this info is based on what the Switch Pro was supposed to be and looks nothing like that. I mean, yeah, that would be hilarious. I'm not saying that's not possible, but it would be surprising at this point. Somebody spent a lot of money to show off these products at CES. It was thinking that, but those would have been leaked years ago. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, thinking about Nintendo, the Super NES. A lot of cool games. You had the Mode 7, which I think did the Mode 7 games have a chip in the cartridge or just the FX chip? I can't remember. I know the Star Fox and Stunt Race FX had a separate chip in the cartridge to do the extra processing. To me, I don't classify that as innovation as much as ingenuity. Limitation breeds creativity or ingenuity. We got this, we want to try to do 3D polygons. How do we do that? Well, we could put a chip in the cartridge, like that stuff. Mode 7 was in some, okay. Yeah, it was in a lot of games. Is that innovative? It's kind of a blend of, did they put a specific chip? I don't know. Did they put a specific chip in the Super NES just for Mode 7? Because that's hardware, putting in more advanced hardware to achieve something in a game. Does that classify as innovation? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I would lean towards not really. It's almost like we have a need. How do we achieve the need? All right, we want to do some kind of vertical scaling, like almost 3D. How do we solve that? All right, we can make a chip that does it. I mean, somebody had to come up with that. Somebody had to design it. Somebody had to engineer it. I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to get stuck on that because I'm not sure. Does adding a Mode 7 chip into the Super NES, what's that equivalent to in modern day? Is that like thinking of having that extra having an extra process or extra chip to do ray tracing? I mean, kind of feels like it's in the same vein. But my main point was, like I mentioned earlier, the controller on the Switch. If I was just thinking about all the Nintendo hardware, this idea that Nintendo always innovates, they always do all these creative things, and I'm like, well, N64. First thing that comes to mind, the controller and the analog stick. AI upscaling is the Switch's to Mode 7. Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff, is that innovating? But I'm thinking N64. I'm thinking analog stick, ergonomic controller with a trigger on the bottom, unique controller. We know now that you don't need to have the D-pad and the analog stick in two completely different places. There's been improvements to the controllers. We know we don't need that. Like, literally right here, you don't need that. But that's the N64's, like, as far as physical hardware, that was the big innovation, the analog stick. The other thing was putting a shit ton of processing power for this thing to be able to achieve 3D rendering at a level we did not expect it in 1996 or whenever it was first revealed, 95, whenever it was first revealed. We didn't expect to see that leap to 3D. That's hardware. Yeah, it was amazing and led to all these awesome games and gameplay innovations we never seen before. But it's because they just put some really good, powerful hardware, some chipsets that could handle 3D rendering, and they thought, oh, let's design, but just like the Mode 7 chip, let's design this chip to be able to do this feature that the PlayStation 1 couldn't do, and that's why you got all the warping walls and stuff. I don't know the specifics. So it's almost like it's really a harmony of needs of game developers and the hardware back then. There was a lot more effort. There's a lot more proprietary hardware, specific hardware design from Nintendo themselves, Sega, Sony, Xbox. I mean, Xbox was the first one to basically just put out a PC. I know the Dreamcast used a power PC or whatever, but a lot of their older consoles were just very specific hardware for very specific needs and goals. But at the end of the day, it's putting more advanced hardware to achieve, things in games you couldn't do before. And it's like, I don't know if that's innovation or not. I mean, it's engineering. It's good foresight. It's good decision making. It's good designing. But would be cool if they did the FX chip for Switch 2, but they would skyrocket costs. We think Switch 2. Yeah, Nintendo ate some of the costs on those FX chip games. I think third parties, they probably would have been $100 games to use that. I know the Sega Genesis version of Virtua Racing had a chip in it, and that cartridge was like $100. And this was this 94, 95? You had a $100 game. Think of inflation. People complain about $70 games. Get the hell out of here. I know there's justification. They had to put a chip in it, but still, that was an expensive ass game. But, and it's like just continuing my thought process. All right. Yeah, the N64 is super powerful. They put in whatever forget what Ultra 64, what Silicon, what was that called? Something Silicon, I want to say. This chipset. That's to me, that falls into more powerful hardware category. And then the controller too. It also added a slot in it. That was a first. We got Rumble. You got the memory cards. There's some other accessories. I think there was a microphone accessory for the N64. I know there's one for the Dreamcast. So that's all, innovative stuff. But again, it's all related to the controller, the way you interface with games. That's where the innovations were coming from. I don't think GameCube really has. It's kind of the odd man out here. The Wii, the motion, the pointer and the motion. Yeah, the whole system was built around that, but take away the motion aiming and you just have a very low powerful console. Like if you just played with the classic controller, let's say they had like a pro controller and that was your Wii experience. It's a pretty low powered, there's most games wouldn't even work, but the games that would, it wouldn't been anything special. So the innovation was the motion, was the gyro with Wii Motion Plus. Also the Wii had some really good stuff on the software side. You had, Virtual Console. You had all the apps, basically, the channels. They were like apps. That is very innovative stuff on the software side. The hardware itself, the actual box, there's not much in the Wii that you could say was innovative. It's like the actual console, the actual inside the console, it was actually very limited. It was very uninnovative. It was very not forward thinking. I don't know what's the opposite of backward thinking, or stuck like stationary thinking. Other consoles had fiber optic audio output. They had we're talking Wii was the same era as PS3's 360. They had which the Wii had component cables, but it couldn't really obviously output above 480p, so it wasn't that necessary. But it had Wi-Fi, which was cool. That was nice, but it didn't have an Ethernet port. It had very small storage. I mean, the original Xbox in 2001 had 10 gigs, and the Wii launched with 512 megabytes. It's just crazy. And that kind of started the path. And the Wii U. I love the Wii. It's my favorite Nintendo console. What's the Wii U's innovation? It's the gamepad. Yes, it's integral to the system. But again, it's a controller innovation. It's a screen on the controller. They really push for the second screen. Asymmetric. They didn't really push asymmetric that hard. A couple games in Nintendo Land featured it, and like Star Fox. Mario Maker, not really asymmetric, but the off-screen gaming became the thing that it was known for. It wasn't really the asymmetric gameplay, but the Wii U itself, okay, Nintendo finally has an HDMI port, but again, no Ethernet port. Very low-powered USB ports that won't power anything. You have to use 2 USB ports instead of the usual one that the other systems had. 32 gigs, that was a nice improvement. But again, it's like Nintendo's innovations, in my mind, I mean, I think it's pretty. I don't know why we even had a debate about it. Has been very much linked to the controllers. So getting back to that, Nintendo's going to stick with a hybrid. Where's the innovation coming from? Controller. They could have done something. It wouldn't have been innovative, but they could have greatly improved the system through the controller. That's my take on it. And then like thinking about their handhelds, the Game Boy, it was impressive for the time to have. Nintendo had to put a lot of R&D and have a lot of custom stuff built to have the Game Boy work off AA batteries, and have the screen and have it be affordable and have them be profitable. So there's a lot that went into the Game Boy. Game Boy Color, obviously they put a color screen. Otherwise it was very similar. The Game Boy Advance, when it launched, they added 2 shoulder buttons. So for the people that are like, well, they need to do more, they didn't do a lot more. Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, they added more power is what they did. So the games look better. You had Super NES games in the palm of your hand minus 2 buttons. But that launch, honestly, I think the day one Game Boy Advance is ridiculous. It's unplayable. You need the backlight. So the Game Boy Advance SP was a much bigger improvement over the previous systems because of the backlighting. 2DS, that's a pretty nice improvement because of the touchpad. It was the second screen, but it was the touch part of it that was really the innovative part that really, I think, propelled that system to its popularity. No Nintendogs. I think you cut the DS sales in half without Nintendogs in Brain Age. I think that system sells 80 million. Yeah, they were one step forward but 2 steps back with no HD. Yeah, on the Wii. GameCube introduced analog triggers. According to Clocked.it, the Sega Saturn had analog triggers. I don't know if that's true. Dreamcast had analog triggers, though, I believe. But it had the clicking. But tell me one GameCube innovation besides the click-in buttons after you squeeze the triggers. By then, there was other systems with dual analog. There was other ergonomic controllers. Every system had 4 controller ports. Well, I don't think the PlayStations did, but the Xbox did. Other systems had memory cards. Other systems had the rumble built into controllers. So I don't think the GameCube really operating system. They did a pretty cool thing. You could do some settings, but Xbox blew that out of the water. So, I don't think they need to innovate every time. But getting back to the handhelds, yeah, the DS, without that touchscreen, without Nintendogs, without Brain Age, without this huge surge of casual gamers, that thing doesn't sell as well. So that was a great innovation, like for a handheld gaming device, like a strictly handheld gaming device. That paid off. But you could argue it's partially a controller thing, but it's also a second screen. I played, I don't know how many DS games did I own, like 10 to 15. The second screen wasn't a huge part of most games. I remember Sonic Rush. It was cool to go down in the bottom screen, go back up in the top screen. That was cool. But then the 3DS, you know, glasses free 3D was cool. I played every game that utilized it well. I had it on. But I mean, was that obviously didn't mean it was going to be it wasn't as successful as the DS, so that wasn't some major selling point. It was very similar to the DS Lite, I should say. You had a second screen, touch screen. You had an upper screen. You know, most people would have wished it was a little better quality, but you know, it added the circle pad. It's not an innovation adding something that, you know, an analog equivalent stick to something years after analog sticks have been out, you know. So, and then from the 3DS, go to the Switch. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, great idea to have the removable Joy-Cons, and definitely good for Nintendo's pockets so they could sell all the different colors. But, you know, adding separate controllers, no one thought, I don't know if anybody thought of that at that point. I know there was a potential lawsuit somebody was trying to say Nintendo copied them or something, if I recall. That's a cool idea. I mean, does that classify as an innovation? I would say it was innovative using the sideways Joy-Cons. As much as I don't like it, you know, that's out of the box thinking. You know, that's, you know, what else can I say? It's out of the box thinking. That's the thing that Nintendo's known for. No one expected that. When the leaks happened months in advance, no one believed it because it just sounded so crazy. Like detachable controllers, like that's crazy. So maybe there's something like that left in the tank. But at this point, something I've been thinking about for a long time. You know, what's left? You know, the DualSense added some cool stuff. The adaptive triggers, which is, it's an extension of like the racing wheels and stuff, giving some force feedback. I don't know if any other controllers had that. The Xbox had rumble in the triggers, which was cool, but the actual force feedback and the you know, the advanced haptics, which blew away the HD rumble. But the HD rumble, that was cool. Not too many games I played utilized it, but you know, the DualSense is the pinnacle of controllers. I don't think Nintendo's gonna even come close to it. And I wish I had my camera when Ms. T was here and he was playing Astrobot and he experienced the controller for the first time. I mean, dude was grinning ear to ear. Like, it's one of those things. Like, I don't remember if he was one of the doubters, but I know he definitely said, you know, Sony's not going to utilize it. They have for, you know, a handful of games, and almost every game uses some feature, maybe, but not all of them. I don't think every game needs to use them all, but the grin on his face when he was using that controller and playing Astro's Playroom was just like, I wish I was recording it, like the joy. And getting back to my original thing that I just find it strange, we were having a debate about that. To me, that's where most gaming innovations have come from, because that's the most important part of gaming is the gameplay, is the controller you're holding. I don't know why it's crazy to say that. Like, that's where a lot of the innovations have come from just, like I said, shoulder buttons, the diamond buttons, analog sticks, triggers, like I said, shoulder buttons, ergonomics, rumble, you know, what else we got? You know, dual analogs, analog triggers, having triggers and shoulder button, just adding more buttons, the touchpad on the PlayStation 4 and DualSense. The touch part of it's not really utilized, but having that as an extra 2 buttons, if you want to hit the right or left side, having that always be your open map button for games that have maps, amazing. I love it. So Jade never cared for rumble for a long time. I used to turn it off. Now I leave it on but it does nothing for me. I mean, I would say vibration rumble does nothing for me anymore, but the N64 rumble was a moving motor. You actually felt the controller. You felt the recoil of your gun, and that's what the DualSense does with like Returnal. especially. You feel the recoil of the gun in the trigger. I love that, but just the vibration rumble does nothing for me. The gamepad or the gamepad rumble does nothing for me. Um, my Switch Pro controller at this point is just vibration, does nothing for me. But anyway, I was just getting back to it. A lot of gaming, a lot of innovations have come from controllers, ways to interact with the software, like a fishing rod, like that kind of stuff. Very gimmicky. There's some very gimmicky stuff in there. But the other side of innovation comes in the games themselves. Ms. T brought up Z targeting. It happened on the N64, but that's a game development innovation. That has nothing to do with the N64 other than it was the first console because it was the first real 3D system. Someone at Nintendo thought to do that. You have like just climbing in Breath of the Wild, like stuff like that. That's game designers come up with. That just like Half-Life, having a complete first-person perspective throughout the whole game blew people's minds. That had nothing to do with hardware or controllers or anything. That's game development innovation. There is a question of what the optical sensor in the new Joy-Con is for. Not sure if you covered that. I mean, I wasn't really going to talk about leaks or anything, but if you can use that for like a mouse or something, how often is that going to be practical? I mean, it's cool. The Lenovo Legion Go already does that, so it's not some crazy new thing. The N64 rumble annoyed you? Dude, you got problems. You got some sensitive hands or something. Yeah, Robert didn't know that the Lenovo Legion Go already has that feature of using the right controller as a mouse with clicking. The shoulder buttons become mouse clicking buttons. So, not innovative, but maybe could have some good use for some games. And just in general, some of the things I want from the Switch. Not since I feel it's 100%. We know what we're getting. Here's the things I want. Like when it's hooked up to my TV, I want HDR. If this doesn't have HDR, that's gonna be a huge blow. That is a huge blow because Nintendo games would be perfect for HDR. Now, not every single game that's HDR compatible is like a great example, a demo to show somebody. But when HDR, like going from non-HDR content in like watching TV shows and stuff, it's not like, oh my god, it's unwatchable. But when you have HDR, what that means in most instances is you can have a really bright light and you can have really dark darks at the same time. You have a wider range of colors, which make colors pop. Like, it's just take advantage of TVs. You make these games look so gorgeous, like Smash Ultimate, Echoes of Wisdom. Take it to the next level. It doesn't cost anything to have HDR in your system. Just got to have the HDMI 2.0 compliant port, and you can do HDR. So do that. I would really like the storage to be really fast. It's not going to be an SSD. It's some kind of flash memory. Apparently, they're using SD Express for SD technology that's really fast. I want really fast loading times. I was playing Horizon Forbidden West last night and finally got the Platinum Trophy. And you fast travel. It's the best looking game out there, in my opinion. And it takes 5 seconds to load to the new area. Like, that's what I want. I want HDR. I want super fast loading. Those I'd love. I'd love the friends list where you could message friends and send screenshots to and get in a party and chat and get in party and go join a lobby and like Smash or Mario Kart. I'd love that. I would love, a few more customization options on the what do you want to call it, the OS, the background, but that's not crucial. That's a minor thing. I'm not asking for a whole lot though. I would have loved the ergonomic controller for sure. I might just have to buy one of these third parties, get a split pad or something equivalent once they come out, because they're new. It's a new connection, so all the old Joy Cons, unless there's some kind of adapter you can buy, they're not going to work. So I would have loved that, but mainly when I boot up the system, I want it to be HDR compatible. I'd love it to automatically go into gaming mode on my TV, but I can do that. It's my Switch is on a different input, so I can always have it set to gaming, so that's not that big a deal. But I'm not expecting 120 hertz support. I'm not expecting 4K 60 support. I don't know what they're gonna do, because Smash Ultimate's already 1080p 60. What I mean, if you're not, I wouldn't want to go to 4K 30, and I don't expect a 4K 60, but maybe it'll support that for some games. Some indie games will be able to do that. I would think like a Hollow Knight or something could do 4K 60. Something like Axiom Verge 2, like a pixel art game. I'd love to see that 4K 60. Just look really sharp. So hopefully it has that output. Not expecting games other than some pixel art, some indie games to even ever consider hitting 4K 60. Maybe they'll be 1080p 60 and still look great. I mean, 1080p is still a good looking resolution. I'm just really excited for the games, though. The actual games, that's what matters to me. That's why the Wii U is my favorite Nintendo system. It's the games. Yeah, I love the Miiverse. That really added to the experience. The gamepad was cool for off-TV play and stuff, and Mario Maker, it was cool. But it just really come down to the games. I made my top 15 Nintendo games list, and 7 of them were Wii U games. Well, Breath of the Wild is, technically Wii U and Switch, but started as a Wii U game. Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8, Bayonetta 2, Tropical Freeze, 3D World. I'm trying to remember what the other 2 were. It would have been Smash 4 on there, but, or Smash Ultimate overtook it. Was there 7 or was there only 5? What am I missing? Said we'll go in order of release order. 3D World, Tropical Freeze, Mario Kart 8, Bayonetta 2, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Tropical Freeze, that's 6, and Breath of the Wild is 7, yeah. So, yeah, that's why I love the Wii U, because 7 of my favorite 15 Nintendo games were on Wii U, and then there was a couple other Wii U games are my favorite in the series. Woolly World is my favorite Yoshi game. Rainbow Curse is my favorite Kirby game. Smash 4 was my favorite Smash game until Smash Ultimate dethroned it. Pikmin 3 is my favorite Pikmin game. I don't think there's any others, but Wind Waker HD is the best version of Wind Waker. So that's why I love the Wii U. Yeah, it was great. The Miiverse was great. Off TV was great, but it was the games. So if the Switch 2 has amazing games, I'll get over the fact that there's no ergonomics. I'll get over the fact if it doesn't have HDR, I'll get over it. It'll be disappointing because, come on, Nintendo, it costs you nothing to implement HDR at this point. I'd be shocked if that HDMI port isn't 2.0. If it's 1.4A again or whatever, then Nintendo just some cheap bastards, because that's only what does that max out at? 4K 30, 1080p 60, I think. No HDR. Nintendo's not going to do uncompressed audio. That's a dream. I would gladly pay $100 extra for like 2 terabyte SD Express card if I had the option to download high quality uncompressed audio for every Switch game or Switch 2 game I own. Like I would gladly do that. Now not everybody would, but I'm sick of these compressed ass audio sound, like the games from the Switch on a surround sound system. It just sounds so weak, and yeah, not gonna happen, but I'd love that. And I'd love Nintendo to get back to being a little bit more on the forefront of technologies. The GameCube, they had 480p, they had component cables. You had to buy an adapter, but it had an Ethernet adapter you could buy for online gaming. And, you know, that was the last system to kind of, they had Dolby Pro Logic 2 support. Like, that was the last Nintendo system to really be current with the times. I understand with the Wii, still think if they made it $100 more and had it capable of like 720p or 1080i or something, maybe it wouldn't have sold anymore. Maybe it was sold less. I don't know. But I would love, I always wanted an optical audio instead of analog audio. I wish the GameCube had optical. It didn't. That's one thing the GameCube didn't have was optical audio. It had the digital out for video for component, but it didn't have digital audio out. So analog audio, I mean, sounds like absolute trash compared to digital as far as the connection. So I'm not saying like there's no way the Switch 2 dock is gonna have, not gonna support Dolby Atmos, not gonna support HDMI 2.1 or anything like that. I'm not expecting that, but it'd be cool someday to have at least have HDR and some higher resolutions, because you can't stay at 1080p forever, Nintendo. And according to a patent, they're really pushing for some upscaling technology that's 540 to 1080 specifically, which would help the games run a lot better and push a lot more visual, higher setting visuals, and then upscale to 1080. If it looks as good as native 1080, that would be great, and the file size of the games would be smaller. So anyway, not feeling like slapping in a ROMA pack for GoldenEye as if you were loading a mag. Yeah, I mean, to each his own, but man, that Rumble in GoldenEye was so good. It was good in Star Fox, but it was the best. You felt Trilink. My LG OLED TV has an inbuilt pointer, yep, and a scrollable button in the remote, akin to the Wii remote, minus the sensor required on top of the TV. Exactly. The scroll wheel and that pointer on the LG TVs is amazing. It's like, I honestly, Sony has the best TV on the market at the time I bought my new C4 OLED, but I wanted that damn pointer. So I was like, I'll take slightly less higher rated picture, quality. I want that damn pointer control. J Biggs, yes, a useful friend list would be nice. Nintendo, I'm tired of being nosy to see what games people on my list are playing and not being able to like invite them or have any communication. Now, I'm probably weird because I send Retro and Terrell like screenshots on my PlayStation every once in a while, and only Retro's replied with a few screenshots over the years. Terrell never does, so it's not like that's some feature. I don't think that's some feature that, oh my god, everybody wants. Most people probably wouldn't use it. I'd like to have it, though. I'd like some kind of social, like Miiverse equivalent way to post screenshots and stuff from games, have communities. That'd be cool. I don't know. They did it before, but I don't know if they do it again. Also, one thing I want to point out, too, is, yeah, there's all these cool innovations back in the day, but a lot of that was, it's the early days of gaming. Like, we start out with a joystick with a button on top, then you add another button, then Nintendo comes up with a D-pad. There's all these innovations that stemmed from the advancement of games, the advancement of technology, like the need. How do we control? I want to control Mario in a good way. They come up with a D-pad. Super Nintendo comes out and they're like, oh, well, I don't know their main reason, but if you're holding this controller, where can we put more buttons? Maybe we want to have a Street Fighter port which needs 6 buttons. Where do we put them? Well, your fingers are right here doing nothing. Let's put them there. Those are things that came from just being the early days of gaming. Like, once you came up with shoulder buttons, every system since then pretty much has had shoulder buttons. The PlayStation 2 had 4 shoulder buttons before they became triggers and shoulder buttons. Analog sticks became a thing, then dual analogs, then having the analog and the D-pad so you could reach them with your thumb, having the offset dual analog. Like, all these things happen because there's a need for it to happen. But once you have a dual analog layout with a D-pad under one and buttons above or below another, it's pretty much set in stone. Okay, what's the next thing we can do? Oh, we can do analog triggers, or we can do adaptive triggers. Eventually there's not going to be anything left to do, so give credit to Nintendo and Sega and all the other companies that came up with stuff to enhance gaming, to improve gaming, to improve controllers, to improve the user experience. Hats off to all those people, the companies that came up with all that stuff. But it's like in Jurassic Park, you're building upon the knowledge of others. You're just adding to what somebody else already figured out. So you didn't have to start from scratch each time. So each console generation, you're not starting from scratch. You're taking what people like, what works, and you're trying to add to it. You're trying to improve it. So now that we're at the stage in gaming since the late 70s, I mean, let's just say the NES in 85, 40 years, been building and building and building upon stuff. There's not that much left to do. There's not that much left to innovate. And some of the innovations they didn't return to. Like we didn't return to a pointer and a Wii remote. We didn't return to analog triggers with Nintendo. Didn't return to one analog stick. Well, that's kind of a different example, but you're not going back. In some cases, they did it once and they didn't do it again. There's no more, Connect. That was cool, but they're not doing it anymore. No one wants that. But it was successful. So some stuff, it's cool, it's innovative if you want to use the term innovative, but it wasn't good enough to do again. So it's almost like it's just learning as you go. They're learning as they go, and they're building upon what came before. And at this point, like what's left to innovate? Like, yeah, the DualSense has cool new stuff in it, but it's not as big of a jump from D-pad to analog stick stuff. Let me read some comments. I don't think people really will understand how good it was to see Dolby when a GameCube game boots up. It's going to sound pretty good. I mean, the Pro Logic was cool because it could take 2-channel audio, for those that don't know, and it could split it into almost 5.1. So it would take the signal. Inside that signal, the game developers had a codec, Dolby Pro Logic 2, and it was somehow compressed, went through the 2 channels, your left and right audio, and then when it got to your receiver, it found the signal, that codec in there, and then you had your center channel, you had your left and right front, and you had your rears, and I think, if I remember correctly, the rears were discrete, so the left rear and the right rear got separate audio. And I believe, maybe could be wrong, there was also a bass, low frequency LFE channel in there. So playing Resident Evil 4, and you got the Dolby Pro Logic 2, you got the receiver, you got the 5 speakers set up. You could turn the camera around and you'd hear, like, I don't know if it's a waterfall or flames, and you'd hear left front, center, right front, right rear, back to left front, and it was mind-blowing. I mean, it was so cool. But quality-wise, like the actual audio quality, if you heard Dolby Pro Logic 2 versus Dolby Digital, there was quite a significant drop-off. Optical sensor in Joy-Con utilizes a mouse. Mystery behind the C button on the right Joy-Con are the gimmicks overall. And those are very gimmicky, like a couple games might really utilize it. T has it on the Lenovo Go. Doesn't sound like it's like you're gonna play. It's mostly used when you're in Windows mode. So let's see, kind of like the NES to Super NES or DS to 3DS. I must have been talking about something. Not a lot of changes between those two, was there? Even even Super NES was just more powerful. NES 8-bit to 16 had additional buttons on controller X, Y, L, R. I mean, it also had, like I said earlier, the Mode 7 chip, but Collected and I are probably going to disagree on. That's hard. That's advanced hardware. That's, you know, you want to call that an innovation? Call it an innovation. I don't know what I'd call that. That's thinking of something and implementing it into the hardware. Um, Maybe for the need of the game, or maybe the game came after the idea. I don't know. My theory is the game idea came first. Let's have some kind of scrolling backgrounds for 3D. So they developed the chip. But again, I lump that in with the more powerful thing. More power, different types of power that gave you different results. The mouse is something I don't see myself using. I like the IR pointer on the Wii. I think Nintendo will drop some kind of new IP application at launch to showcase new gameplay opportunities using the Joy-Con as a mouse. Maybe, but I mean, I'm guessing you're gonna have to have that on a table or something. I mean, it doesn't sound very, unless it works in a way that I'm not thinking. That sounds like very specific setup. Personally, I wouldn't mind getting glasses free 3D again for gaming. I don't see devs wanting to do much with that, unfortunately. I mean, it was great. Like, the games that utilized it, it was awesome. I tell you what, though, if you probably polled 80 million 3DS owners and said, would you rather have the 3D or a screen that's twice as sharp, twice as good in games, because they, instead of having to do, I technically don't know, so I'm assuming it's like 3D movies where you have to have two 1080p images in order to have a 1080p 3D image. I don't know if the 3DS worked that way, where you had to have whatever the screen resolution is, dual, so it would have to render out two full, basically 360p, whatever the 3DS resolution is. It has to render two of those, so both eyes get it, so it's actually 360p 3D. If that's the case, then not having the 3D, you would have been able to pretty much double the resolution and without sacrificing performance. Yep, Artisan, I just won't get that game. What game? Oh, yeah. The one that utilizes the mouse. Yeah, I can't see a whole lot of opportunities other than like a paint program, which I might actually be interested in, like some kind of Photoshop painting. Mario Paint could be a pack game. Could say the same thing about 1-2 Switch. Nintendo priced it at $50, sold it a few million anyway, so they made bank, but not making it a pack-in. I mean, they definitely made money, but it was ridiculous in my opinion. That game was so basic, it probably cost them like $10 million to make. Not $10 million. $10,000 to make that damn game. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I think the announcement's going to come soon. I'm going to be wrong. My original guess was March 26th of the announcement. I think it could come as early as next week based on the CES stuff. I don't know if unfortunately, those fires in California, shout out, or not shout out, but if you're in that area, man, I feel for you. That's a tragic thing that's not really being talked about that much that I've seen. A lot of people have losing their homes. I don't know if Nintendo would be like, well, timing's not right. There's millions of people in California who have no homes and have no jobs anymore. So I don't know if that would factor in on their announcement. But taking that out of the equation, I wouldn't be surprised if next week or the week after we get the reveal at this point. So Terrell, he might be right on with this January 20th. Sandstorm said January 16th. Possible too. So I'm not gonna change, like, officially I'm gonna stick to my March 26th after the Xenoblade Chronicles X releases, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just say we have to reveal it next week or the week after, just because of all the information that's come out. Yeah, Mario Paint, I mean, it was kind of cool. I watched a video on that last year, just kind of the history of it and stuff, and it was pretty limited. I played around with it at a friend's house, but I mean, that was a full-fledged mouse. I don't know if it had a keyboard. Donkey Kong Country HD, January 16th. Yeah, they're not going to announce a Switch 2 the day a game comes out. That was my whole point about March 26th. they're just not going to do it. I don't know when they're going to do it then, because there's multiple games coming out. But I figured Xenoblade Chronicles X comes out the week after. That would be a good time to reveal the Switch 2. I don't know. Maybe that's still going to happen, but I'm kind of falling for a lot of the stuff. It's the CES stuff. Just be straight with it. The CES stuff was completely turned me from skeptical. The stuff probably could be legit to this is legit, and the fact that they're showing off accessories and other companies showing off accessories, I feel like they either thought the system would be revealed by now, or they know it's gonna be revealed really soon. So we'll see. But hopefully, I mean, a bunch of people tuned in, more than expected, so appreciate that. Clocked It watches this. I mean, hopefully you don't have to type 10 paragraphs of everything I said that you've disagreed with. I don't think it's that controversial, honestly, to say, the majority of Nintendo's biggest innovations have come from the controller side of things, the interacting with games side of things, and the fact that the Switch 2 is it's gonna be a hybrid. It always was gonna be. As soon as this thing started selling, it never was not gonna be a hybrid again. What's left to innovate? Operating system, they could do some cool stuff. They could bring back a Miiverse thing that I would love. But really, what's left to innovate? Sony already set the standard for controllers. I know Nintendo's not going to do that. I don't think the Switch 2 Pro controller is going to do something that Joy-Cons can't do. So I'm going to say no to advanced haptics and no to adaptive triggers. So yeah, but appreciate you guys. Didn't have anybody shouting at me. I'm sure I said something though that'll trigger maybe I said something about the N64 might trigger T or clocked it. Maybe I said something about the GameCube that will trigger Retro Death. He was here. I don't even remember. Did I say the handle? That's the innovation of the GameCube is the handle. I would say it wasn't innovative to go to those little discs. That wasn't innovative. That was stupid. For pirating reasons, maybe it was smart, but why limit yourself? What benefit was there? Why hamstring developers? Why make them have to make 2 discs, 3 discs, 4 discs? Like a Final Fantasy or a bigger game could have been 6 discs. To fill a 7 gig DVD, or wait, it was CD back then? No, it was PS2. That was DVD. So up to 7 gigs. And I don't know if I said this. I don't think Nintendo needs some wacky, off the wall thing every time. I don't know why we're expecting that. That's like expecting M. Night Shyamalan to always have some super clever twist ending. That's what I think hurt a lot of his movies. People went to his movies after his first 2 hits and expected this crazy, clever, twist ending to come out of nowhere. You can't do that every time. You just can't. It's not possible. There's not that many creative ideas, and if you built every movie you ever made around a unexpected ending, they're not gonna be unexpected because everyone was expecting it. Nintendo could do. Oh wait, Nintendo take another stab at VR again with Switch 2 like they did with Labo, an affordable and effective option a year or 2 in the lifespan. Nintendo could do add-on for a game instead of forcing the add-on gimmick to the whole system. You talking about just in general, they could do an add-on for a game? I mean, the Joy-Cons are flexible enough, with Ring Fit Adventure, Labo, they can do stuff with those. I never was a fan of the cheap plastic steering wheels for the Wii remotes or the pistols. Just point it. I mean that doesn't add anything to me. That's the true sense of a gimmick is a plastic pistol that you put your Wii remote in and act like you're shooting. Doesn't to me that doesn't add anything. I'd rather have adaptive triggers and advanced haptics. That adds something. A plastic housing for a controller doesn't add, but I just don't think Nintendo, getting back to what I said, I just don't think they need to worry about having some off the wall new thing that people weren't expecting that separates them. Um, yeah, the Switch 2 might just be boring if you just look at it. The systems next to each other. Oh, this is just a bigger version of the Switch with more power. It's boring. Yeah, it's not exciting. The game should be exciting. I guarantee you, the game, when you see Mario Kart 9 and 3D Mario at the reveal, you're gonna be excited. I guarantee it. There's not gonna be a Zelda game ready, but what else could be ready? A new Donkey Kong game. Well, not after just doing HD. Maybe next year. 3D Mario, Mario Kart. We already had Metroid Prime revealed. You know, I don't know if they'd show off like an Animal Crossing, maybe Monolith's new game. We're gonna be excited. That's what's exciting. The system, not exciting. But what benefit did the gamepad have to the Wii U outside of the 13 million people? Well, I don't think all 13 of them loved it. What did that add? It was cool for us. Most people didn't care. That's one last thing. I forgot to say this. I meant to say this like an hour ago. You can do all the cool innovations in the world. You can go outside the box and think of this thing you think's just the most amazing thing. And then you put it in gamers' hands, and they either turn it off, don't use it, don't want to use it, don't like it, and you're like, oh shit. Well, we're not gonna do that next time. Like the pointer on the Wii remote. Yeah, it was cool. You didn't do it again. Technically, it worked on the Wii U, but it's not like they came out with a new version of the Wii remote. It still worked the same with the sensor bar and stuff. Motion gaming, the Kinect, it kind of just faded away, and gyro. Thankfully, gyro. I love the gyro. Gyro was the good thing that come from the Wii Motion Plus. I love gyro. I loved it in the Wii U gamepad. I loved it in the Switch Pro controller, the Switch in general. I love it in the DualSense. I love gyro aiming. So that was a controller innovation that still stuck, and I love it. But Nintendo didn't feel the need for analog triggers ever again. Like I said, the Kinect, the Wii. I don't even remember the PlayStation Move. No one cared about that. The 3DS, I wonder what the statistics are of people that use the 3DS. It wasn't in high demand. They didn't bring it back. I liked it. Most of you watching it probably liked it. It wasn't worth bringing back. Didn't make the system sell 150 million. It sold 80 million. There's, the touchscreen's cool on the DS and 3DS, and you have touchscreen capabilities on the Switch. Not really used. I hardly ever used it. People can live without touchscreens. People can live without, motion stuff. Like, most people can live without gyro. I guarantee you, Horizon Forbidden West, the percentage of people that use gyro, I don't know. I can't guarantee it. In my mind, I feel it's probably 15% or less. Like, honestly. Like, that's what my heart tells me. I could be wrong. It could be 40. It could be 30. But I feel it's like 15%. It was a huge improvement for me. I loved it. So some innovations, yeah, they seem cool at the time, but they don't pan out. They don't turn into the new standard, I'm sure there's a shit ton of stuff I'm forgetting from the past that just went away. It's like, what did the Jaguar have? How many buttons did the Jaguar controller have? And all those buttons in the middle. Games that had, or controller adapters that added keyboards. The 360 had one. The GameCube had a huge controller with a keyboard in the middle. The bongos on the GameCube. That's cool. Nobody wants it again. Like, nobody needs the bongo controllers again. Like, I say nobody. I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the 500 people maybe that would love to have more bongos again. No one wanted that. It was a cool, unique idea. They put 2 or 3 games out for it, and it faded into oblivion. Like, some innovations, it seems cooler than it really is till you use it. Then most people are like, just give me a standard controller, give me dual analogs. I don't need motion. I don't need any of this stuff. Yeah, that's boring, but that's just the majority. That's the facts of life. If you can't accept facts, I mean, what do they say? Facts hurt or whatever. What's that phrase? I don't know. I don't understand people getting upset over facts. That's a fact. You know, it sucks that, you know, people, the majority of people are holding back what I feel is the best way to play any type of shooter is gyro aiming, but the fact is not enough people care. The majority don't care. So it is what it is, you know? Just that's the fact. And what are these companies supposed to do? Keep putting money and stuff into these ideas and, you know, losing money? Nintendo's not going to make another Wii U mistake. And you know, there's so many tied to that, but either way, I appreciate you guys for sticking around. It's been nice to do a Juice Opinions. Shout out, I said this in the Juice is Loose podcast. Shout out to Clocked It for his video highlighting all the Juice is Loose guys. Like, I might do an impromptu one right now. Just give you my first, when I think of each person, like the thing that stands out the most to me. So Jason from Clocked It. He's my favorite content creator of the Juice is Loose guys. I mean, other than really him and Rob. Well, Retro's been out of it for a while with all his moving to the U.S. stuff, but I'd say him and Rob and Retro were the ones making, you know. But I think Retro and Clocked It were the ones really diving in. T does his more live stream, you know, show off a lot of game collection stuff. He does have the occasional topic discussion video. But as far as Jason from Clocked It, my favorite content creator of the group. And I just think of his sense of humor and his accent stands out to me. And his love of Sega, love of nostalgia, love of the old games, and his resilience to the idea of games not aging well and not being as good today or playing as good today as they did back then. So that's what I think of when I think of Clocked It. Retro Death, obviously the accent and the takes, the opinions that are just like sometimes it's just mind blowing, but it always leads to some either heated debate or a really fun debate, and you know, gotta love him for that. Another guy who really loves, you know, him, T, and Clocked It especially. All love the old games, game collecting. But I'd say Retro Death mostly his takes, his long paragraphs he used to leave, and I feel like the podcast is better with him when he's there. So we'll go next to Terrell. Terrell, I always think of his laugh and how that made everybody else laugh on the podcast. And it just added everybody. It just made it was an icebreaker. Terrell on the podcast was really opened things up, I felt. Got everybody out of their awkwardness and into their comfort zone. And, you know, he's always singing at the beginning of his streams. I don't know how he does it, but he's always just randomly singing at almost every stream. And he talks about this, the fact that he doesn't fit in his community of, you know, the black community in the South. He's kind of an outsider, so I always think of Terrell. I'm an outsider in my family, not for different reasons, but I'm kind of the outsider of my family. I don't know if you are of your family, but Robert, what can you say about Robert? He was a kid. He did a lot of kid-like stuff, said a lot of kid-like things early on. The thing, funny if you're watching this, Robert, the thing I think most, or the thing I associate with you the most, and this is going to probably sound weird, is the inability to make a decision. and what that, to me, if I ever ask you, hey, pick between these two things, and you always struggle. You don't like comparing one game to the next, and you love to use random things to decide what you're going to play or what, you know, the order of your backlog games, the order now of your 2022 games. You randomly have them picked. And I just always internally associated that with your ability to not make a decision, to like struggle to make a decision. I don't know if that's true, But definitely when I ask questions, sometimes I just say, "Dude, pick a is there going to be a direct?" And you're just like, you always seem to struggle. So and obviously, I always think of your mom when you had your mom on, and just seeing your relationship. It's crazy to me. I have nothing like that with any of my family members. So props to you. And then last but not least, we got Ms. T. Probably been on the longest. Probably the person I've been talking to the longest. Closest to age. I think him and I are definitely the closest in age. But, Retro and Jason are really close. T and I have a lot in common, movie-wise. Gaming, obviously, I don't collect. I didn't play nearly as many games. That's another thing. I think of T. I think of a huge collection of games. Always buying games, buying multiple systems, buying multiple games, digital and then the physical. He's a collector. Obviously, he's hilarious. Great personality. Like I said, person I talked to the longest. I consider him like a true friend. Not that I don't consider everybody else, but above all else, T, I consider you like a friend, like a real friend, not just a podcast friend, like a work friend. And we disagree we're on opposite spectrums and quite a few things, but he knows me. He knows water. It's like water off a duck's back with me. Like, I don't take things too personal, even if I do get a little heated or disappointed or don't like how interaction went. I don't hold grudges, and I don't think T does. We've always got along, even though we don't always agree. So that's the Juices Loose crew, man. Sandstorm, he was a late addition. He's not on very often, honestly. Don't know much about Sandstorm. Met him in person. He's jacked. He's a jacked mofo. He's like the Rock, like the younger Rock back in WWE early days. A man of faith, super chill, super cool guy, friendly guy, really friendly. And he's got his gaming tastes. I'm not quite sure. I haven't quite figured him out yet when it comes to that. But he loves Harry Potter, so that we got that. And he's a Michigan guy like me. So that being said, I think I didn't expect to do that, but hopefully all the guys see it and appreciate it. So thanks to all the guys that have been tuning in. Don't have a lot of the original guys that used to watch here. I don't know, Visor. I feel like you're the longest running guy here. TriLink. I mean, a lot of these names, I can't tell you, if you were here 5 years ago, if you were here 10 years ago, if you've been here like in the last 2 years, to be honest. I know Visor feels like Visor. You're the old. You and Retro are the longest running. Jay Biggs, like I recognize your name. I don't, I couldn't tell you if you've been watching these for 5 years, 10 years, or 2 years. Honestly, like I don't have that kind of recollection, but I always appreciate you guys. Donnie, the artisan. Mohammed came in here trying to start some stuff. He didn't last very long when I didn't engage. Pearly21 made a few comments. Yeah, so with that, I'm going to get out of here. Where are we at? Hour and 30 minutes. So, 1 to 2 hours. That used to be my Juices opinions. And hopefully you guys got some entertainment out of this. Let me know in the comments below. Make a follow-up. Make a, what do you call it? A video, not a reaction, not a rebuttal. What they used to do? Someone would make a video, then someone would make a response video. Make a response video. Tell me everything I said that I was wrong, you disagree with. And yeah, with that, I'm going to get out of here. And we'll see you guys next time. Oops, my click off the screen was off screen. Nice. 97 views. Shit.